Dystopia tonight.
Boys,
What's going on, man? Happy St. Patty's
how
Day.
are you?
Good.
It's been. I hope you don't mind, but it's about that time.
No, I totally
I
understand, dude. Love it. This whole channel is called Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. So
I cover all the above. It's all good.
Oh my god, that's fucking great, man. It's so nice to meet you, dude. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I can't believe I'd thrown your name out there, and my manager's like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Why?" I was like, "Is he not gonna?" And he was like, "No." He's like, "I know them." And I was like, "He's like, you talking about the one band that I've actually like hung out with?" And I was like,
That's great. I know. I was actually, we hadn't talked in ages, me and Billy, and he told me you were doing this, and I said, "Yeah, I'd love to do it." And he goes, "How about St. Patrick's Day?" I was like, "Oh Jesus." That's the only day of the entire year since COVID that I'm actually doing something. So I was doing a bunch of things earlier on today, and so then he said to me, "Well, what about 7:00?" And my big fear was, will I be able to keep it together till 7:00 at night? Because I started at 5:30 a.m. this morning with some East Coast stuff, and we were doing stuff, and all I kept thinking was, "Gee, will I?" And I've realized that I always thought gigging, playing 2 or 3 gigs on St. Paddy's Day was exhausting. It's got nothing on doing interviews all day where you actually have to keep your shit together.
Yes.
You can get up on stage at 10:00 on Paddy's night and people are so hammered.
Right.
I could get up there and just go, blah, 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 and everybody would be like, yeah. It's the 1 year you don't have a critical audience.
Yeah.
But I'm delighted to say, lads, that this is the first Jameson.
Oh, beautiful.
Of this hour.
I should grab a drink.
And yes, it's if you don't mind, I'm considering this the fun interview of the day.
Yes.
The relaxed one, and perhaps the most shit-faced. So
yeah.
just
Beautiful. I was gonna say, I don't know if you've noticed the octopus monster with a gun to my head as my background.
Without glasses on, I thought that was a fucking bagpipe, but okay.
Don't make me blow into it. I'll fucking do it, dude.
Hey, that's what she said last night. All right, off you go. Sorry, lads. Terrible. It is late.
Man.
It is late.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's perfect. I'm gonna grab a Guinness myself. Sorry.
Yeah, do it, dude.
Yeah. See, look, I'm a terrible influence. Now you know why I'm still in the business. Look what I do to people. Yeah, I wouldn't mind. He'll admit that he hasn't had a drink in 20 years now. This has been the worst part.
This is the night it all falls apart.
That's right.
The bandwidth is gone. We're all on here for way too long.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal. Yeah. So when did you? So you haven't been have you been touring at all? Nothing. Like you've been COVID.
No. We did our last show on March 13th of 2020 in Boise, Idaho. It was funny. We had a whole America tour that was going to end in Salt Lake. And then straight to Dublin overnight. We had 150 Americans meeting us at Dublin Airport who would have come on the tour with us, and then finish it back in Dublin, and then straight to Miami for the Moody Blues cruise that we've been doing for the last few years. And with a brand new bass player who just worked his arse off to get, tight and all the rest. It was a great story. He still is our bass player, but he was our crew guy 20 years ago, and had left working the road and gone on to other things, living in Hawaii, and then he heard that our bass player of 18 years was quitting, and bass player of 28 years, Jesus, and he said, "I want to try out," and I thought, "You can't, you live in Hawaii," and it's like, "I'll move to California, we'll sort it, we'll get this together," and so he was heading out on, his first ever international tour with a band, and we got to do, I think, 8 shows, and we got to Boise, Idaho. We released video that night of the gig, and it was like 800 people on each other's shoulders and stuff. We'd actually sold, I think it was sold out at 1,200, but at that point, the COVID thing was starting to really get out there.
Yeah.
And so we were going, is this really still is this real? What's going on? We're still gigging. And people were saying, and we were told that night, you may be the only show happening in America right now. And that that wasn't something where you went, woohoo! You sort of thought, what the hell are we doing? Is this nuts?
Right.
And so we went on stage, and everybody, Idaho obviously had very low numbers compared to most places anyway, but they were going bananas. And we videoed, somebody was videoing from the crowd with their phones and all, and everything got posted the next day. And it was like the beginning of the shaming. where
Wow.
where people were like, "What were you guys thinking?" And I'm like, "We
Yeah.
weren't." You know, we were at the airport drinking Bloody Marys on the way back the next day, and that was it. And I've been sitting where you see me now, trying to keep my calluses on my fingers for the last year. And
if that isn't a metaphor for what we've been doing to keep our careers going, is like beautiful. I feel the same way.
Calluses.
Yeah, exactly. Our careers are our calluses. It's the same way, man. Like, I never wanted to be at a desk in front of a fucking, computer all day long, but no touring. This is what it's come down to. So it's either I started out doing the same thing where you're like doing interviews and shit like that, and then finally Scott, Scott Curtis and I did Scott Curtis's interview in the beginning of the pandemic, who was just on, and then he had started his during the pandemic, and then we met Tom. Tom's my producer, who's down there. He's a great guy. He could brought all these other comics together to form a channel called Drinks Storytelling. And then I was being super lazy about this podcast, and I had come up with the idea for Dystopia Tonight because we're all living in a fucking dystopia.
Absolutely.
And,
great names. Perfect.
Thank you. I was like, come on, we got to acknowledge it. Like every newspaper article I was reading at the time too was like dystopia. So I was like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to do something with it. On March 13th, same thing for me. I was doing, I was in the Midwest, and I was making my way back to New York. My last show was in New York on the 13th, and did kind of like the same thing where as it started getting closer, every gig I had, we were like joking about, I think I was looking back on the tapes because I tape my sets too. And it was kind of like mentioning COVID, joking around, like, haha, oh my God, we're all going to get it. And then by the time I hit New York, and they were like, if you're in New York, you probably fucking have it. So I had to quarantine. And I was like, oh shit, is this fucking happening right now? And the next day we fucking locked down.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you say that, because I was doing the same thing on the 13th. I literally went on stage. We did the first couple of songs, and we get and I start doing my little spiel for the first time. And I said, Boise, Idaho, how you doing? Or I always say, how the fuck are you? Yeah. And everybody goes, yeah. And I go, I can't think of a nicer bunch of people to catch the virus from. And and everybody cheered. And then I was horrified afterwards, days later. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like in New York going, hey, grab a shovel. We're digging graves out on the island. It's like, Jesus Christ, no, we're really digging graves out.
Right.
I mean, it was just, it went from kind of funny to dead serious.
It did.
So much so that I have no recollection of last Paddy's Day. I would have landed back here on the 14th, and I remember doing a couple of little posts, joking around about I had gathered a load of booze on a table, and I said heading into lockdown, and I had Jameson and wine and pints of Guinness, and then I had a potato and a toilet roll, and I was like ready to go, bring on your worst or something. Right. And then that's all I really can remember of that month. And then the panic of, we're all self-employed. This is what we do. Yeah. How do we get help? And it was so confusing, and they hadn't got us ready yet for self-employed people. And I mean, it was one of those brain numbing months where I only really remember what I started doing mid-April as I started to try to get it back into okay, I've got to turn now and start embracing the internet more. And I mean, I didn't have a single clue about how to broadcast anything. I mean, obviously you can tell from the beer that this band started prior to the internet. And dude, I'm still worried about what could be the fucking internet.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. Yeah, I'm like, this is all, I always say this all the time, but this is all COVID hair. You know what I mean? Like, my hair was relatively, it was always a little long, but never fucking Mary Tyler Moore. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't have known. It looks great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But it is the same thing where a bunch of us were like, we don't, who are we doing this for? I'm not going on stage. I'm not doing acting shit.
And your job is way more difficult, because I'm a huge fan of comedians. I literally, I grew up in Ireland with a dad that was a massive joker, and this was long before. It's funny, stand up in Ireland and in England, as you well know, was jokes. It was jokes. Walked into a pub yesterday. A guy comes up to me, and it was this big joke, and it was joke after joke. But then all of a sudden, American comedians started to surface in Ireland who had that more. And what do you guys call it?
Observational?
Observational comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a great guy in Ireland called Tommy Tiernan.
I love Tommy Tiernan, dude.
Yeah, Tommy was like the first that I heard actually doing that, talking about Irish people and telling jokes like that. But I can do, I can play a gig in a record store to launch an album or something to 10 people. I can do a gig, I can play on the radio, and you finish a song and you go, cool. To tell a joke and get no feedback, it is extremely difficult. So I know a lot of the comedians were like yourself. I'm sure you've heard all this stuff where you were offered gigs in car parks or gigs where they were trying to open it up again.
Yep.
But it's just not the same.
It's not.
You breed off, and music is the same. It's way nicer to have an audience.
Yeah.
But at least it translates to this format a little easier than stand-up does, I think.
Yeah, I was envy my friends. I have a bunch of friends who are musicians who were you've done New Jersey before, so I've seen you here. Yeah, right.
I've played Hoboken many a time, and upstate New Jersey.
Well, I was gonna say I've seen you in Hoboken. That's where I did see you, but I wasn't sure if you've done Asbury or not. Have you done Asbury Park?
We played what's that venue? There's a famous venue.
The Stone Pony.
Stone Pony.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's funny because bands always think you can play Manhattan and New Jersey, like, well, they're different states, and you don't realize you can fuck a stone from this venue and land at that venue in New York. So we'd always have these great Manhattan gigs, and then you sort of lackluster until we started moving outside of Hoboken and going to different parts of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And there's loads of great festivals too in New Jersey.
Yes. Yeah, we did. So my friends, I've got a bunch of friends in the music scene in Asbury and stuff like that, and I think they transitioned to the online stuff so much easier than I did. It took, I did a couple Zoom shows. I refused to do Zoom shows in the beginning. I was happy to do interviews. I liked generating material. I'm a very, when I'm on stage too, I like having my set, but I also like to fuck around and have fun, and it's very personable kind of thing.
Play the crowd,
yeah. So I was like, I don't know what that's going to be like on a Zoom show. But my friends who are musicians, I was so happy for them because they had their own Facebook Lives and their own donate button, and I was the only thing I could do for anybody was I've got a decent following on Instagram, so I was like, hey, please watch my friend's show. Or donate. I was happy. I was like,
dude, marketing man.
Yeah. I was like, whatever I can. And then I did a few Zoom shows. Tom will attest, because I got roped into one that I didn't know was a Zoom show. That's another thing too, is I don't always listen when people tell me what I'm doing. So they're like, which is such a bad fucking quality. But I was like, hey, I'll do your thing. And then I'm talking to Tom and he's like, hey, you're doing a gig. And we're doing some show. He's like, yeah, we're going to wrap up. You're doing a gig. And I'm like, well, it's not really a gig. It's like an interview thing. He's like, no, you're doing time. You're doing 10 minutes. And I went, fuck.
Well, the funny thing about that was I always thought, the way people have their bucket lists, I always thought it'd be a great crack to do stand-up sometime, because when we're on stage, between songs, I'm terrible. You see the band kind of holding their breath. What's he going to say now? And I always joke, a number of years ago, late in life, compared to a lot of people, I discovered the wonderful merits of medical marijuana. And it came about because I had this weird thing hit me at one point where I started feeling nauseated before shows. And to be honest with you, I'd never been nervous. I'd never, I could play in front of 10 people or 10,000. To me, backstage, it makes no difference. I just walk out there. I'm blind as a bat anyway, so I can only see the first row. So I knew it wasn't that. And so I was getting checked up, and the doctors were saying, there's nothing wrong with you. Somebody said to me, take a little hit before you go on, and it'll settle you. But Jesus, they had no idea what nightmare they were starting. So what I now say is, I know I've taken just the right amount. If by the fifth song I go, fuck, are we on? And I realize that I've spoken probably at least once to the crowd at this point and have no recollection. So we always joke about that. So anyway, for years I thought, I'm going to do a stand-up. I'm going to write some stand-up. So I started writing down little ideas I'd have. And when I thought I had loads, I'd take myself saying them, and it was 35 seconds. And I realized, Jesus Christ, if I'm to do 10 minutes, I'm going to have 8 pages of really good stuff that holds up. Whereas what I could do, if I tell a joke to the crowd and it bombs, I just go, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we jump into the next song. hopefully 4 minutes later they've forgotten.
Yeah, right.
What I did. So major respect for stand-up. It's
thank you,
very,
dude.
very difficult job.
And it's crazy, like stand-ups. By the way, I like have major respect for what you guys do too. And I feel like stand-ups always want to be musicians, and musicians always want, like, we want to crossbreed somehow. It just doesn't. I have a banjo. I can't play it for my friends. It was my friend's dad's and his grandfather. So for some reason he gave it to me, and it was like, I know you like, I do. Banjo's fun and whatever. I cannot fucking play that thing to save my life.
You're in the large group of banjo owners.
Do they also have it on their wall with a Kermit the Frog wrapped around it?
What was the last thing the banjo player said before he was fired? You guys want to do some of my stuff? No. It was I think it was funny. So many instruments became very cool after Mumford and Son. But I'm actually a massive banjo fan, but the reason I am is because the way I play acoustic is that I'm not very good. I'm rhythmic, so it's almost like a drum. It's almost like a percussion instrument the way I play it. And so when Mumford and Son brought out that first album, I couldn't believe how big it sounded. With just the banjo, and that's what was giving them the beat. And they could add a kick drum, but you just had to add banjo, and it felt like a drum kit had come in, So banjo players, I hope you accept that apology. And I was just joking, There's at least 2 or 3 of you I really particularly like.
Yeah, I love that sound. It's a great sound, and I like string instruments too. Like I'm a big, like if I hear the fiddle I'm like, I love the fiddle. Anybody can play it well. When I hear it and stuff. But when I saw you guys, you were hilarious, by the way. I love the banter. Like when I see a band and they can play with the audience and they've got and they're like fun and out. It's like I love it, dude. So you guys were fucking
well. It's like what you do. You go in with a set list, but the idea is to make every show feel personal to that audience. So I would always familiarize myself with where we were.
Right.
Try to find out a little bit about the town. Try to open with something particular to them about where we are, and I think that endears your fans to you a lot more than if they really think you're just following the script, bang 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 bang. I actually heard Bill Burr. It was one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah,
I heard him in Philly, and it was a recording, not a video. And first thing he says is like, so is it okay to piss in the subway because that fucking smell? Jesus Christ! He's going like, I thought somebody was pissing right beside me, and the audience is dying. And I thought to myself, brilliant! And now he's going to dive into the set.
Yeah,
but I've toured with a lot of bands that will remain nameless, where it literally is word for word what they did the night before, but it works because they've worked on this, they've honed it in. Yeah. They know they're not spontaneous people,
right?
And they want the banter to work. So, and I'll admit, with my system, sometimes it hits great, and sometimes you go like, right, okay, moving on. So it's risky, but when it pays off, it's massive, because you feel like these people will always remember that I came out and said something to them that I didn't say last night to the crowd.
And that's the best part too. When you're creating those those individual memories of shows, it's like, I love the idea of like, it was never a gimmick to me when people would be like, oh, like when you go to see him, he really doesn't do the same show twice. And it was like, well, that's great. I'm glad. But like, I'm glad people feel that way. But like, that is what I like to do. I like to change up the set. I like to play with the audience a lot and make it feel like it's special to that night, because my thing was like, this particular comedy club, like there's no more. It's back in the day, people used to come out for stand-ups like industry. So you would have to do your fucking, I mean, it's still A material, but it was like, you didn't want to mess around too much in case somebody was there. Now I'm like, nobody's going to be in West Virginia, and whatever. So why not make this as much fun as you can like, I want to have fun. That's my fucking goal to do it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like so like when you're talking about like being able to like be loose on stage and stuff like that, does that change with the size of the venue for you? Do you do less of that when it's a bigger venue, or?
No, I think the bigger venues are a little bit more difficult, because usually a PA size that we're using is not always tuned in for talking. It's more suitable for the sound of the music, and very often if you're talking with delays or whatever throughout the stadium, whatever size venue, especially if you're open for somebody big and you're in a massive venue,
right?
You have to sort of work that. But I find pretty quick, mostly I have to slow down. That's what I do, because I tend to blah, 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 and that will be very difficult for people to hear in a big venue. So I have to go like, and now we are really excited to be here, you know. But I find that some of my favorite shows are, we've done a couple of acoustic gigs over the years where you just go into a small venue. Maybe it's a local thing, you're working at material arts, or it's for a friend who owns a bar. And I love those gigs because that's how we started, was in a bar.
Yeah.
With everybody right up to you, and where they're listening to every word and they're hearing and they become sort of almost part of the gig.
Yes.
And so I think it's easier for me to be more relaxed in that setup, but the bigger shows obviously are better for you as a band. So it's sort of like a playoff between the two, I'd say.
I feel like that's awesome to know, because like it's the same way, like I've done, like I much like the intimate scene. Like stand-ups are very much like, if it's a low ceiling and all the fucking chairs are facing you, even the better, because the laughter's contained, people feel more comfortable as each other. And I've done theaters and they're fun gigs to do, especially for the money. But you know what I mean? Like it's good to like do that kind of shit, but they're not the most fun. And I feel like it's nice to know that even musicians feel that way too. I saw when my friend turned 21, and I was like a year older or whatever, but she was like the last of us to turn 21. And for whatever reason, the Gin Blossoms were back on the road, and they did Jenks in Point Pleasant. I don't know if you've ever done Jenkinson's.
No, but I've opened for the Gin Blossoms loads of times.
Have you? Oh my God.
Great guys.
They're coming on in soon. I don't know when. I was trying to look at my calendar and I was like, fuck it.
Tell them I said hi. They should remember quite well.
Okay. Wait, no, I gotta ask you about that.
It's a good times.
Oh, well, I want you to tell one of those stories, because then I can have them do the same thing. But we saw them at Jenks, and that was cool because that was one of the places that they played, I guess, when they were younger. Yeah. And they were coming up or whatever. And man, did they just, you can tell they were having fun. Yeah. And that means we were all, I think we stayed later than anybody should. Even they went over, you know what I mean? Where they were just fuck it. Yeah. Nobody's leaving. It was just so much fun.
Good guys.
So wait, what's the,
we were signed on the same label there for a little while. Oh, wow. Just a while back. It was us, them, and Cracker. And we did a couple of shows with them. And we just had a blast backstage. I remember in the hotel hanging out with them even before the gig. And I was a huge fan too. I mean, so when you hear them play live, you're going, shit, that was them too. It's like hit after hit after hit. Yeah. And, but we ended up doing this sort of little industry thing somewhere downtown LA, where it was very few people. It was I don't remember what it was even for, but it was us, Cracker, and Larry had a terrible cold, and we were joking backstage, and I've been a massive fan of Cracker for years, and everything they've done. We ended up, we're chatting away, but the Gin Blossom guys arrived, and we were sort of chatting a little bit. It's good to see you again. But let's just say that I broke out my medicine, and and next thing you know, we were all just having a blast, and it became such a fun little hang that musicians can have now and again. It's like you'll show up at a place where there's a bunch of comics on, and it's just that right group. Where there's no egos, there's no, we have this and we've done that. It was just a bunch of guys appreciating each other's music. Yeah, and it was very different. You can imagine Gin Blossoms, polished pop, Cracker. What the world needs now is another folk singer like that. And I'm going, fucking brilliant. And then wow, it was like cross genres.
But what a great fucking mix,
but brilliant. And we've actually talked. We'd love to do it again. Yeah, and we've talked over the years about doing something. It's funny, promoters don't see that. To them, it doesn't make sense. Wait a minute, Celtic rock band, a pop band, and all. But it's what makes the best sense for us. Put me with somebody who is totally different. That's why we do these Moody Blues cruise. I mean, here we are with 60s bands, right?
Yeah.
We have no fucking business being on that ship. And for some reason, we get up and we'll do the pool gig. Everybody shows up because we're so different. Yeah. So the last one we did was the Moody Blues, the Zombies, Jefferson Starship, all these bands that, and obviously, when I say those names, some of the bands have maybe half of an original member.
Right.
It's like those legs are the original legs of the guitar player. The The body is new, but the legs. And so it was always, but you're walking around and you're hearing, because there's bands playing everywhere, and you're hearing songs like I remember, oh God, pale turns a whiter, pale shade of pale. Yeah. Name's gone. Anyway,
I know you
come out of one side of the boat and I hear this English voice really ragged, like, so when we did this, we released it, and then and I'm thinking, oh, holy shit, whoever's talking now is going to have a tough job singing. And then he breaks into that Procol Harum. And he sings it like a 20-year-old. There's huge notes in that song.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there going, holy shit. And then you watch Moody Blues, and he's going, nights in white satin, and he's still nailing the high notes. So people joked at us like, why are you doing that tour? You know, would you rather be on one? But these were sold out, 3,500 people trapped on a boat.
Wow.
Probably spreading COVID. And the thing, it was like, you know, that's the next cruise will be, please welcome Keith and the super spreaders. It'll be, I was blown away by it. I just loved being around these, since, you know, amazing bands and just phenomenal, legendary people. But I got my biggest kick. The Zombies were doing it. And the Zombies guy, Colin, is probably, I suppose he's late 70s, maybe. Sorry if I just go. But they do that, you know, and let me tell you about the way she was and the color of her hair. And this is huge, big high notes again. And he's brilliant. So I get in one of the lifts on the ship, and he gets in. We're all wearing our artist passes, you know, and everybody in the ship's mingling. That's why they go on these cruises, because you get to meet all the bands. So I get in, and he's there with his family or something like this, and I go, how you doing, Colin? Great show last night, saw your gig. And he goes, oh, hello. He goes, who are you with? And I go, oh, Young Dubliners. I go, we're the Irish guys that are for some reason on this ship. And he goes, oh no, you're the reason my daughter came. And I went, really? How old's your daughter? 55. So I'm like, I am a Young Dubliner, you know. But it's hilarious because, you know, we started this band, I was in my 20s, and it was the fans that called us that.
Yeah.
The manager, Billy, would know this. It was like, we were the young lads from Dublin, me and Paul O'Toole, and they started calling us, oh, the Young Dubs are playing at the Irish Rover tonight. And we hadn't given ourselves a name, and all of a sudden people start calling us the Young Dubliners. Well, the Dubliners are a massively famous folk band from Ireland, who were great friends of my dad. I spent many Christmases with them. My mother was the first female vocalist on Irish television. So I was always around all these people. So suddenly we get offered a record deal, an EP deal. And we weren't looking for it. We had no idea what they even meant by that. And I just said to the guy right away, well, we have to get a real name. And he goes, what are you talking about? You're the Young Dubliners. And I said, no, that's just a name people gave us because we're from Ireland. And he goes, no. That's what everybody knows. That's why we're signing you. You can't change your name now as we sign you. So I actually had to call Ronnie Drew, who's the main Dubliner that I knew, tell him what I was doing and ask him if it was all right.
Yeah.
And he gave me how Ronnie spoke was, go ahead, Matt, keep the fucking faith. And so we ended up keeping the name.
Wow.
But, you know, you don't think when you're 25 that you're going to be 56 called the Young Dubliners.
Right.
And that I can see them almost like a fortune teller. When we go on stage, I know there's at least a shitload of people who've never seen us before who go, they're not that fucking young, are they? You know? So I always tell people, fine young cannibals never eat anybody, so fuck off and just listen to the music. You know? It's just a name, for Christ's sake.
Oh, that's fucking genius.
But that's the history of the band.
Wow, that's phenomenal, dude. That's amazing. I didn't know you did the Moody Blues thing. That must be fucking, I mean, that just sounds wild, man. That's awesome.
It was great. And then, as I say, it all got cancelled.
Yeah. It'll be back.
But it's coming back. And the cruise thing is a bit dodgy because, you know, let's just face it, they already had somewhat of a bad name about germ spreading.
Right.
So I hope they do. I just wonder what the hell have they all been doing parked off those islands for the last year, like thousands of ships loaded with booze.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? I'm thinking
what a great place to be stuck. I don't know why everybody was complaining. But didn't the Flogging Molly thing get stuck too? They were doing their tour too. I think a bunch of cruise ships got like either stranded.
Yeah. It's funny. You're right. Actually, ours was supposed to be end of March, but Flogging usually do theirs near or over Paddy's Day,
Right.
and near it. So they must have been stuck. It's funny.
Yeah.
I never really heard. We're all so consumed by our own depression.
Of course.
You know, we didn't give a shit what anybody else was going through.
I think people are just coming out of it.
Exactly.
They're like, oh,
it's true. My 84-year-old mother just got her shot in Dublin on Tuesday.
Oh,
And
wow.
Ireland is like playing these nasty tricks where they're like, right, you're 90 years old. You're getting your shot on Tuesday. Oh my God, I'm so happy. I've been so worried. Just kidding. We fuck all vaccines, but we'll call you back. I mean, Europe has made a balls of this, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
And it's tough. It's one thing to watch it on television, but when you've a 84-year-old mother who's waiting for this thing, who's been in her apartment for a year, and I haven't been able to go see her. She hasn't been able to come see me. I listen to Irish radio every night to the news, and I'm screaming at it. Get your shit together, you know.
Right.
But she got it, so.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle and cousins or whatever are over in the UK. They're in why don't I know? They're in. My grandfather was from Brighton. They live somewhere. Bournemouth. They're in Bournemouth, England.
Yes.
But they got fucked and they wound up getting COVID because because of the school situation. They have little kids, but they were basically like, if you don't send your children to school, they will not be able to come back.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a choice, and they had to send them to school, and they wound up fucking getting COVID from a teacher, and it was a whole fiasco. But yeah, they've been handling that whole situation piss poor.
It's been really weird though, because you think about all the troubles we've ever been through. Never has it been where I call my musician friends in Dublin, in England, Denmark, other parts of America, and every single person is going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's never happened before. You know, you have recessions in certain countries. You've dictators. You have clamp downs on artists or whatever, and you're hearing these stories going, oh my God, but all of a sudden America now has had it all. You know, we've pretty much shared quite a lot of shitty things that other countries have gone through in the last year, and it's been an eye-opener.
It is.
I really hope people sort of realize that. See, that's why it's shitty.
Me
to
too.
Be in a situation like that,
I'm worried. Like, that was one of my concerns, is that I really I feel like if we come out of this going back to 2019 before this happened, we fucking failed.
Oh yeah. I mean, but we did, because I actually wrote a little song that I did on the radio today for the first time, and one of the lines in it is so much for being in this all together. It was. I remember this time last year, I was saying, look at see, America might be divided massively, but look what's happened. We're all in this together, and everybody's in this together. Well, we know what happened to that, and it's just it was very disappointing. I mean, just like you, I'm sure we have fans on both sides of the political spectrum.
Yep.
And I deliberately avoid getting political on stage, because I know people come to hear music, and I know they don't want to be preached to by musicians, but it comes to the time where I actually brought out a T-shirt last year, which said "Mama, make America mates again," and the whole MAGA thing was going on, and I just people would look funny at me in grocery stores and stuff, and then they'd read it and go, cool, man, and that was my thing. Was I know these individual people. I know how good they are. I know how loving they are. I know how supportive they've been of our band. I love them all equally. And I just wish in Ireland, we went through severely serious shit, divisive shit. And yet I could be having a massive row in a pub with somebody about the British being in Northern Ireland or something. And I'd be going, no, you're wrong. And they're going, you don't realize this. And then he'd be like, what are you drinking? Pint of Guinness.
Yeah.
You want a shot with that? Go ahead. And all of a sudden we're back to our being mates again.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted politics to be. You can disagree on all of that stuff, but at the end of the day, I've seen when America is faced with an outside threat and how it unites, and how it united and given Irish people a place to run to, 200 something years ago, and how it looked after us. So it just disappoints me to see families torn apart like this over fucking politics. Yeah, man. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. There's always a common sense right down the middle, and everybody's dodging that right now. And if we could just get back onto, what would your mother say?
Right.
Didn't your mother tell you to cover your mouth when you sneeze?
Yeah, man. I know.
So what's the big shock about a fucking mask helping?
Yeah. It did get like crazy for a while too, man. I had like I mean the last 4 years, the Trump stuff or whatever, I had cousins who were not surprisingly, but somewhat swindled, like New Yorkers, you know what I mean? Which is so weird to me because the entire time Donald Trump existed before he was the president, when he was in New York, he was the con man you would warn people visiting New York about. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Don't give your video camera to that guy because he'll fucking take off with it. You know, you're like, could you take a photo of us? And then it's like, no, that guy's gonna run with it. You don't want to do that.
That guy.
But I had cousins and stuff like that who fell for it too, and who would who are older than me, much older than me, but for whatever reason would blast me on social, like literally like take a screenshot of my shit and be like, he's an Obama loving BL. And I'm like, what? And, you know, to the point where like, I'd be like, you know, we are still family. What are you doing? But they had this ideological, kind of cult-like connection. Like if you offended Trump or you disagree with the politics, it was almost like you were literally offending them or disagreeing with it. It was weird times.
That's where it's gone. And exactly what you say. You can't even. It's somebody said to me a while ago. It said if you're a Trump supporter, it says a lot about you. Mm-hmm. And then somebody else said, no, if you're a Trump supporter, it says everything about you. And I thought that was a very sad observation. But I have to admit that I've witnessed that.
Same.
I've witnessed somebody who has gone on not just to be, because, you know, being a Republican or a Democrat, I could give a shit.
Yes.
I'm still a green card holder, you know, I'm not even a citizen, so I don't vote. And I just felt, but I have a degree in journalism, and politics was my main thing. So I was always in awe of the American political system, with its checks and balances, and how you'd hear about Tip O'Neill having a drink with Reagan, and they, you know, how everybody, yes, you behawed when you were on the floor of the Senate or whatever, but then they all met in the pub afterwards and were the best of mates, and shit got done. You know, stuff happened, compromises happened.
Right.
And now we're in a situation where I don't even want to hear your opinion if I think you're on that side or this side. And what people don't seem to realize, I don't think, is how fucking dangerous that is.
Yeah.
Because what we should be thinking about now, what all of us should be thinking about now, is our kids. What are they getting? My son's born here in America, and I wonder about, you know, the reason I give a shit about climate change is because of my kid. I'd love to say that it's because I'm this amazing, you know, environmentalist and I understand. I don't understand, but I've seen some amazing shit, and I'd like my kid to see it too, if that's okay. So whether this is Earth going through a change or whether it's humanity, if there's something we can do to slow it down, why the fuck wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you at least try, regardless of whether you believe it or not? And the argument about, you know, industry being, everybody was up in arms for ages about the coal miners, you know. We got to get the coal miners back to work. What about the newspaper print people?
Right.
Does nobody give a shit about them? You know how many of them went out of where the fucking iPad Kindle came out?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't see them going, bring back the fucking newspapers.
Yeah.
But no, what they're saying is, bring back the ability to go underground and breathe in shite and die at 50.
Right.
I want that. What I don't want to do is climb up there in a decent pair of clothes, attach that solar panel to your roof, come back down, still looking pretty sharp, and be able to go out for dinner with the missus that night. Instead of coughing up gobs of phlegm covered in fucking black shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's a common sense angle always. Absolutely. Give everybody deserves jobs, deserves, you know, assignment to jobs or whatever, and education and all. But that doesn't mean that we just fuck the planet up in order to keep these shitty jobs that weren't great jobs to begin with. The money's important. The job isn't important.
Yes.
You know, I did it because my dad did it. Yeah, do you remember your dad hacking up at 52 years old? Is that really what you want for yourself and your kids? So I've just always been blown away by that. The idea that people can come into politics and brainwash people into thinking this is a good way to go. Support me. I mean, the worst one for me with Donald Trump is when he goes on about the Bible. If anybody actually believes that Donald Trump is religious, I have this amazing beachfront property just outside Idaho that you will love. The ocean laps up to the coast. I mean, come on. Now I get that the smart ones didn't buy that, but they knew that he'd push an agenda.
Yeah.
That they wanted. But there's plenty of them who actually did believe it. I've heard horrendous things like he's the second coming or something. I'm like,
oh, I know. It is insane. And that's the most disheartening part is the people that knew it and let it continue anyway, who are just like willing to let this dude fucking con have to. It's so upsetting to think like, wow, people really surrendered pretty quickly for, you know.
And it's the old story. It's the exact same thing with all that whole idea that you'll be, you do this now and we'll worry about the future.
Yeah.
The future has been so desecrated now by what's happened.
I know.
I just really hope the country gets back together. But that's what we're going to do when we get back on the road. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to keep hammering the idea that, when I first came to America, you guys were all telling me, "Oh, I'm Irish American. I'm Italian American," and I was thinking, is nobody proud to be American? How come they always want to talk about their European connection? But the minute the shit hit the fan and those towers came down, nobody was Irish American or Italian. They were Americans.
Yeah.
And they were together and they were going to fucking sort this shit out. And that's the Americans. I wish they could come back to that idea that it's an amazing country. It has such great things. Don't get sidetracked by this bullshit of hating each other over stupid shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we were almost there too with the COVID thing. We were all one country. We were all trying to fight this thing at the same time, and somehow we managed to fuck that up. It didn't last as long as the post 9/11 feeling of like everybody being friendly to each other, trying to help each other out. Somehow we bypassed that and wound up, And
it's awful, and it needs to be changed, because even if you believe that solidly, or you believe the left solidly, there's no future in that.
Right.
You can't. This country is too big and too diverse for any one idea to be the predominant one. Time to compromise or move to fucking Russia or something.
And what's amazing too is like it's even for the Biden administration that's coming up now, it's still amazing to me that the concept of just help fucking people is still difficult to do. And like I understand we had like a ton of people who dabbled in politics because it was easy when this is the thing that Trump made it easy for people to dabble in it. You know what I mean? Like I've been following it since I was like 15. I'm interested in local politics and politics as a whole. And then there's people who, when Trump came in, they were like, "Oh, this is a piece of cake. Bad guy, good guy. I got this shit." And then, and they don't know what to do now that he's gone. Because they're like, well, do I criticize the side I voted for? And it's like, absolutely, because now this guy's dicking around.
The one thing he definitely established, I'll say, is, you see when you're coming into America years ago, the Irish would be on the ships coming in. They see the Statue of Liberty, bring us your sick, but the one thing I was always told was, anyone can be the president in America. That's what's so great. You can be, and I'm thinking, no fucking kidding.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, fuck, we didn't mean it literally. We didn't want a game show host.
I used to tell people, that show was a TV show, right? He may actually be the worst businessman of all fucking time.
Oh.
If I'd gotten that much money from my old man and just put it in a Capital One fucking bank account,
right?
I'd have more shagging money by now. But
yeah, it is. Anyway. I always admired. I was gonna say I always admired. Like I don't know too much about Ireland politics, but like when I've watched stuff, on the internet and stuff, you guys are so passionate in your, like we're like our Congress is fucking, it's like soft hand jobs most of the time. You know what I mean? When they talk about stuff, but man, the politics in Ireland, they are passionately like you guys yell at each other. Like the way I imagine our forefathers did when they argued and debated over shit, where we are like, ugh.
Very rough hand jobs in Ireland. Let me tell you, it's a whole other. I don't know if it's politics or the Catholic Church.
It's all those calluses, man.
Has ruined the art of no. It's true, but like I said, we do, and even Irish politics at the moment. It's funny. This sort of idea of fighting against the science is actually taken up all over the world right now.
Yeah, it is.
And there was some pretty bad riots in Dublin last week. But it's all based on people's frustrations to get back to work.
Well,
so it comes out in weird ways to where you're kind of going, listen, we're not doing this to fucking get you out of work. We're doing this to save your grandmother, and getting that idea, like this idea that, we all did. I think we're all guilty of it at some point where you hear like, oh, a 65-year-old died of COVID. And you're like, was there pre-existing conditions? Yes. Oh, thank God. Like as though it's not going to hit healthy people. But
right.
I always, think about the big chubby 75-year-old uncle who was the life of the party,
Yeah.
who always had that great joke, who you knew was diabetic or had diabetes, whatever. But he certainly wasn't about to die anytime soon.
Right.
He wasn't going to live to the ripe old age, and eventually probably the weight was going to get him. But was that life worthless?
Right.
Is it okay that he died just because he was fat?
Yeah.
It's this idea that pre-existing conditions is some excuse for why COVID was bullshit.
Yeah.
And I lost a beautiful musician in an Irish band called The Elders out of Kansas City. And he passed away from COVID. And all the Irish musicians banded together. And we did this amazing tribute, which is on my YouTube channel if you want to see it.
I'll check it out.
Where we did one of his songs. And we did it where we all sang and videoed ourselves recording it. And then they cut it together. So you could see all the different band members. It cut in with pictures of him playing and his family and everything else. And that was probably the biggest gut punch to me, where I realized this is, and then we lost, John Prine. And John, I just seen John Prine in an interview talking about how he was going out again. Was he going to live another 10 years? Maybe not, but I'd have loved to have one more fucking year out of him.
Dude, right?
So
yeah.
It's just, it's been a weird, it's kind of almost like a horrendous selfishness or something.
It totally is. And I used to, when I used to argue with people about it in the beginning of all this too, when they would be like, when they would kind of do that tough guy thing, where like, well, what sacrifice is going to be made? I'd be like, great. Which one of your family members and friends are you willing to sacrifice? So you can go to a fucking bar, which like, give me names, give me one.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't have an answer, but but they would be like, I'm like, that's how you have to think of it. Which one do you want to go first?
Exactly. And that's what I was telling somebody yesterday. There's 500,000 plus families who have lost somebody. And for them, just even hearing that the vaccine's here and kicking in must be agony. Like losing a kid to fucking leukemia, and then 2 weeks later, there's a cure for leukemia. It's
right.
The horror of what they've all gone through.
Yeah.
But it's such a huge country. It's not the next door neighbor. It's not everyone you know.
Right.
But it's their pain is real. And I think if we as a world sort of take that in and feel a little bit of compassion towards them, it'll help bring everybody back, because what we really need right now is like everybody needs to smoke some serious fucking weed.
Yeah.
And just chill out for a minute and get back to the basics. And then all of a sudden you'll open your eyes and go, oh, there's my brother. I do love you. What? I don't care if you support Trump or I support Biden. It doesn't matter. What really matters is we made it through this and we get a chance to move on. So, hopefully, God, I really dragged the comedy element of this to shitter, didn't I?
No, dude. But this is no, but it was. I'm not even kidding. This is the kind of stuff I love talking about on here, because how many interviews, I like talking to people, especially on this thing. That's why it's Dystopia too, because it's just like, you do these interviews. I've done a million of them too, where they ask you the same kind of stuff over and over again, and you never get to hear, this kind of stuff from somebody. And it's important though too, because most people who love you, who are fans of you, maybe don't get to know this side of you, and maybe they get something out of it. And
probably lost half of them. Fucking bastard. I went all these years keeping this shit in.
Oh, that's so great. Fucking hysterical. Yeah, like it's, but that's the beautiful part of it too, though. It's like I like when, like, I went back and forth about, I'm not shy. I don't know if you've ever perused my Instagram or, Tom knows. I'm not shy about any of this crap. Like I kind of adamantly, people know where I stand on stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny though, the minute, like, people don't understand the nuance to it either, because the minute I go, well, the other side's doing this, I'm not woke, like the woke culture thing kind of bothers me, or like even like the the climate change stuff, which I'm 100% for, and I completely agree with you too. But I'm like, hey, you don't understand the other side of it is, if this portion of society cannot get their family to a doctor, they don't give a fuck about trees. So like, you need to heal people before you, like, if like we all basically want the same thing. We want healthcare, we want respect and money for what we do, whatever it is that we do for a living, no matter if it's flipping burgers or fucking roofing or whatever it is, and to be able to survive. And until as a country we all kind of understand that, we're not going to be able to heal anything. It's terrible.
No, and it's completely that at the end of the day, I think that's what it is. The far left, far right, it all does me head in half the time. When I hear convergence, it's like I say, to me, there's a common sense path. I don't think there's any issue in America right now where, if you're true to yourself, there isn't an actual truth, common sense way to do this. And it's just politicians don't exist without the drama of it all. To survive, they have to be one side or the other. They have to, stand their fucking ground and keep their shit. It's otherwise their job's gone. That's why you don't have these centrists anymore, where people are just doing that. And I think, as somebody who studied American politics, it's the golden egg of politics. It's a brilliant system, and I think at the moment it's been exposed for its weaknesses. And with a bit of luck, it'll get back on track. So, people get mad at me because I say something about Trump or I say something about McConnell. I say the exact same shit about the left too.
Yeah, same.
Schumer drives me fucking nuts. Some of the stuff he does. And I'm
Pelosi's infuriating. I couldn't stand.
I'm horrendously upset with this cancel culture, if that's the in-word.
Yeah, me too.
But no, I don't even use that word. Just the idea that people are thrown onto the shit pile without trial or jury. Or at the very least, everybody deserves their day in court. So, when Al Franken had his situation where the Democrats just ate their own, and there was a whole investigation going on. Let it play out before you try. I mean, I loved him from Saturday Night Live. So
me too. Yeah.
I was a bit biased on that one. But it's ridiculous. We all fuck up. Everybody has shit in their past. I'll never be able to run for politics because there's so many pictures of me with fucking bongs and shit out there. But all of a sudden nowadays, that might be okay. Might be a plus.
And they could be part of the Green Party.
I see a whole new.
The craziest thing to me is you're not that you're expected to be the same person you were a year ago. You know what I mean? Like this whole idea that we're supposed to be. It's like, what's crazy to me too is like when you see Keanu Reeves is dating an older woman. And the left loves that shit. They eat it up. They're like, good for her. Nobody should be fucking saying anything. Dennis Quaid married a 25-year-old, and they're like, lock him the fuck up, that monster. What has he done to her? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's old enough to know she's taking his fucking money when he croaks. So let's just not get too, you know what I mean? It's insane to me that they don't see or smell or taste their own bullshit.
And Keanu Reeves, there's never enough money. He's taking her money when she croaks. So. It's a win-win.
Exactly. And it's like, it's that thing where like, they want their cake, they're eating it too, because I'm not a big, I'm not, as far as I know, I'm never getting married. I don't have anything against it. If that's what people want to do, I'm happy for that. Tom's laughing because I shit on it 24/7. But like, I'm happy if I think 90% of people are faking it and 10% really lucked out and they met the right person. But like, I think it's funny that like half of the people who want to cancel things and want to shit on love and all that other crap are also the same people that are like, love is everlasting and it's breaking barriers and love is a battlefield. But at the same time, they're like, no, you need to love how I say you love. And I'm like, look, either it's all those fantasy things that you want it to be, or you have to agree that the reality is it's just two people slightly overweight who don't want to die alone. Which one do you want it to be? I'll go for the fantasy element. I'd go for the happy shit, other than the reality that most of it is. So you got to pick one here.
I know, like two people in a picture where they're both eating a piece of cheesecake, and you go, "That's fair enough." If there's only one of them, then maybe you'd have a fucking issue. I saw one of my Irish mates. We've had this WhatsApp thing going. Thread going since COVID, and the shit coming out of England and Ireland is so hilarious. And it was hilarious in the beginning. But yesterday, it was Mother's Day in Ireland on Sunday, which is another fucked up thing because in America it's in May. So I miss my mother's one all the time. I always try to look it up, but she's always like, on Saturday, she was like, well, call me tomorrow if you can. I mean, it's Mother's Day here, but that's okay. I forgot to send something, because in May she gets blasted with flowers and there's no fucking idea why. Right. But somebody showed me this Mother's Day card where it says, "Happy Mother's Day, Mum. I know you shagged Dad, and that couldn't have been easy." Every mother needs to get that card.
Yes, absolutely.
I know you shagged Dad. That couldn't have been easy.
Oh God!
But it's been funny. It's hard to say there's been any good thing about COVID, but there have been some weird things, and obviously some couples have fucking ripped each other's heads off being together. Oh. Some people have gotten way closer. My kid is going through his senior year. School here, and I know fuck all about the American college system and how to get help and all the rest. But the beauty of it was I got to spend a year with him, which was the most important year for him. Yeah, getting ready for all this stuff. And he got accepted into his college, which is great.
Oh, nice.
But it's just so there were these little silver linings that come out of this that hopefully we'll hold on to, and
I think so too.
We'll look back on this, but our generation, we always heard about World War II. You know,
right?
Somebody tell you about World War One, like the horrible things that happened to the world. They survived Vietnam and all these things. I think we got complacent into thinking, you know, nothing bad was ever going to really happen on a world scale during our time because the world had learned. And I think we just lived through it. And now history, you know, kids 100 years from now will be taught about the time the whole world got shut down by a fucking virus, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been a weird coming to grips with the fact that this must have been what it was like living through so many horrendous things that happened in the world. You didn't realize maybe at the time that that's what you were doing. But this will be a part of all our lives. This will be a huge section of my kid's life. Hopefully this is the only thing he'll go through of this magnitude at 18.
Yeah.
And then we're going through it at our different ages. But it's you know, it's almost too much for the brain to comprehend that an entire world shut down.
It is. It really is. And that's why I'm glad we have these kind of for me, and I think for Tom too, like we all, I actually haven't met Tom in person. I don't know if he's a figment of my imagination. He doesn't know if I'm a figment of his. Like this could all be CGI. We don't know.
You want to reach your hand over now and it comes into his screen and I'm like, you're full of shit. Right? You're full of shit.
How sad would it be if Tom and I were advanced AI? Would you be like, I'm out. We're not doing it. Elon Musk is a fucking liar.
No, I've had enough of these to go with whatever the fuck you're saying. It's all good. Tell me everything.
It's fucking crazy, but like I enjoy, like there are, it's, I think in the middle of this it was hard to admit that there were some good things about it because you didn't want to, like, so many people were obviously dying and being affected by. I just lost a friend 2 weeks ago to this, and it's still I have her last Facebook post, which is, this is morbid by the way, but it was more of like I screenshot it because it was just a reminder of how fucking devastating it is. It was how quick she'd got it posted that her oxygen was at 75, was like, please send prayers, to get me back to 95. If I'm not there in 2 hours, they wanted to sedate her so she'd calm down or whatever. And that was it. And that fucking broke me, dude. Like I was like, whatever. But the crazy, flip side of that too is, she was living in Jamaica at the time, and I got to through this stuff. Even my friends and I, who they're married, we've been friends for over 20 years, but we're living in different parts of the country.
Yeah.
We now do this every fucking Saturday because we were we don't know what's going on, especially with all the, towards the end of the election and stuff like that too. We're fuck, our family, we got nephews, and we were just doing this all the time. So, I mean, I don't know that I would have talked to you, if it wasn't for all this stuff. And I'm grateful for it,
Absolutely.
Beyond belief.
Well, if you hadn't been doing it so long and run out of good guests, there's no way in hell I'd have been. So thank God you've been doing it so solidly. I thought just came into my head as we're sitting here. I was thinking it's St. Patrick's Day. I just fucking remembered that again.
Yeah.
And say to myself, by this point normally I'd be knee deep in some massive, loud rocking show and trying to keep it all together, get to have the audience would always be hammered, and I'm actually enjoying this immensely, and it'll be probably a long time, if ever, that I'll get to do this on Paddy's Day again. So
wow.
Cheers, lads. Cheers.
Yeah,
lads.
cheers, man. Absolutely. This is honestly, I'm sitting here thinking I've got to thank Bill for making the connection too, because this is one of my favorite shows right now. I'm enjoying the hell out of this, and I'm super, super grateful for you to come on here too. I feel like I'm wrapping it. I don't even know how long we've been talking. I feel like
I think they turned it off about half an hour ago, but just
somebody shut off the internet. They're like,
just for a private chat with the three of us. The other funny thing is the fact that this is, would have been a year ago a DIY type setup where we have these programs now that we're able to do this on the internet. This is as high tech as every late night dog show right now.
Yes.
This is it. This is what everybody's doing. And so it has opened up an awful lot of opportunities for people to sort of exercise maybe things they didn't know they could do before.
Yeah.
And do the shows. I did an interview this morning with a friend of mine who is a bass player from the 80s in Los Angeles. I remember meeting him. He was like a sort of one of these utility guys who was in loads of different bands, filling in for, they didn't have a bass player and stuff, but was very well known. And we lost track of each other for years and met up again just a while ago. And he started doing a podcast in the morning. And I did it, maybe a year and a half ago, and it was very fledgling. And now it's like a big rocking thing. And it's just great for me to see him, and I can see how he's flourished in it. Would he have ever gotten that opportunity through mainstream television?
Right.
Probably not. You know what I mean? So it has been it's an interesting time. It's we'll probably be a lot of things will change on the other side of this once we come out of it. But
I think
some will be for the good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It has been like a really bizarre, great equal. I keep saying that phrase, but like it is because like you're right. It put us all on the same level. Like I think doing this actually and seeing like Fallon with who I love Fallon, but like with no audience and stuff is like, I can do that.
It's like what you were saying earlier. Some of your comedian friends are saying, no, I can really embrace the Zoom thing. I'm getting into it. You're like, yeah, but nobody was fucking coming to your gigs anyway. So this is exactly normal for you, for Christ's sake.
Exactly. I'm like, who was coming out? I don't
see the difference. Of course you fucking don't.
Yeah, exactly, man. Oh man, this has been great. Well, I guess it has been an hour, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But thank you so much for coming on.
I've got let me check my hectic schedule of fuck all. So yes, I better get back to that fuck all schedule. It's going to be, just another busy St. Patrick's Day of watching fucking Alaska shows about skinning animals and building fucking cabins that I'll never be able to build.
Dude, I love that you're watching it because my friends and I downloaded a game called Valheim and you're Vikings and you do exactly that in the we're hunting boar and we're like serious about it too. We've got these houses we build up and I'm like, I will never be able to go here. And this is the most physical labor I've done in like a year.
Exactly. Well, it's well documented that I love the great outdoors and all the shit. And I used to always tell everybody, I could do this, I could do that. And I ended up making friends with the Kilcher family up in Alaska, Homer, Alaska, who do the Last Frontier.
Oh, no way.
Otsley is a brilliant musician. They open for us whenever we're up there. They're absolutely great family.
Wow.
And we met them all. I was starstruck meeting them all. And they're all coming to the gig. And it was just a big mutual sort of love fest with them. But we were joking about it because they live just outside Homer. And the big joke was like, Otsley moose this year. Otherwise, you'll have to go to Safeway like the fucking rest of us. Yeah, because it's like the supermarket is like 2 miles away. But it seems like if he doesn't get the caribou, the family will go hungry. Not fucking really. You can see McDonald's if you come out of it. I can see the fucking arches here from the top of the house. And so
being lit by it.
And we message each other about that all the time. But all I thought was people locked at home all this year watching these shows.
Yeah.
And every show is something getting shot and killed and skinned and people eating something out of, necessity. And I wondered how many families were suddenly like, the guy looks at the other family member and they're like, what the fuck are you looking at me for? There's no meat on me. And I'm just wondering if they're sort of like going, yeah, if things get really shitty, grandma's got a pretty chunky looking thigh in her, and I've just learned how to separate the rib. From
we'll say she died of COVID. Nobody. We'll say she died of COVID. Nobody will know.
Don't worry, we didn't eat the COVID bits. Terrible.
Oh my god, that's so great,
terrible.
Dude. I know, but everybody's been like, I've watched more murder porn to the point where, like, have you ever seen the movie The Burbs?
I've heard of it. I didn't see it, but I know what it is. So good. Tom Hanks, is it? Yeah.
Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks. And his next door neighbors are like insane. But I keep calling my next door neighbors the Klopex. I'm pretty sure this fucking kid has killed his parents. I haven't seen his mother. Like, she was there one day and gone, and I always see them in their backyard. I'm like, is he fucking digging? I'm like, but I don't know if it's just me because I watch too many,
But then you see the mother and you see him, but you never see them together.
And you're like, oh my god, that's so great. Now it's great. Now I'm not gonna be able to fucking sleep. I've been having these fucking messed up because I don't know about you, I can't sleep, so I'll pop a Benadryl, which is not good to do, or like a NyQuil, because you have these fever. I swear to God, I've been having like fever dreams for the last like 3 weeks. But I swear to God, I fucking heard somebody knocking.
How much Benadryl exactly do you have to do to get that? I need a dream change up.
I'm like 3 feet tall, so it's like I think it's only a half a one for me. I don't know. I'm like a Keebler Elf comic, so it's my next show is in a tree, so I hope you can make it.
That's
But yeah, no, I like I've been doing that. And I swear the other night I thought I heard somebody knock, and it was just me and my cat. But of course, I'm like this out like fucked up. So like I woke up, thought I heard somebody knock. I look, then he looks, but then I make myself think that he heard it too, and I'm like, he's only looking because I'm looking, and I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like how dare you?
Dog's like, give us some of the fucking Benadryl, will you?
All right.
We got to be on a level fucking playing field here.
Yeah, I know.
Shit's getting out of control.
He's like, you're not taking me down with you.
The cat's like, it wasn't me. I don't even have knuckles.
Then one morning you woke up and you were licking your own balls, and you knew things had gone too far.
I've been inside too long, man.
The fucking dog's in recharge now. Madness.
That's what I'm going to title this episode. One day you wake up licking your own balls. That's what this episode's going to be called.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's one of the symptoms they don't tell you about.
Yeah.
It's too embarrassing. That's what long COVID is. It's like, oh, can you not taste? I'm like, not taste, dude. I'm licking my own ball. I don't even know.
If there's one thing I'm not looking for right now is taste. I can stay away as long as it fucking likes. Hopefully long enough for me to stop licking my fucking balls.
Oh my God. Dude, we totally made up for politics talk for like 15 minutes. I love that we're ending with ball humor. It's so good. It's so good.
Bad. So good,
Fuck.
so bad, and yet so good.
Oh God. Oh my God. All right. Well, seriously, I'm gonna fucking end it. We've been on for an hour. I think about an hour. I feel bad. Like I don't. By the way, this is full disclosure. We're gonna cut this out. I suck at ending things. I don't know when people want to leave. Tom is always like, like everything was it Carl Gottlieb? I had Carl Gottlieb on who wrote Jaws. And Tom was like, you fucking rushed him out.
Cut him off.
I was like, did I? And he was like, yeah, because I don't know. Like, I'm like, I'm like, well, I think it's about that time. And they're like, fuck, is it? I don't know. I mean, it's your show, but is that how you're telling people? I'm like, do you want me to?
Keith, the best was he did it like this. He's like, Carl, would you like to stay and hang out and see the deck and hang out for the next guest? Because we had another guest coming on. He's like, no, I'll just hang out with you for a little while. So then the guest was getting closer. And John's like, all right, Carl, you got to go now. Why did you do that? The guy just was hanging out.
You should have just had a big fucking one of these animated sharks come in and just take his ass out. And like, I know. Now he's the guy who wrote Jurassic Park. You're there busy trying to find a fucking dinosaur. This should be like this session should end with like some fucking little leprechaun comes and fucking belts me over the head. It's like perfect.
That's because we have all of those things. That's the best part. We got dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Velocipastors.
You're totally. I fear what's coming on with my one. You'll have Shane McGowan's head and posed on me fucking head.
It's just 16 masturbating leprechauns on the bottom of the screen.
A whole new meaning for diddly diddly. Absolutely.
Oh my God.
We really had been so much fun. I hope you'll join us again. I feel like
this was great, boys. I'm so glad. I can honestly tell you this was the funnest one.
Oh, thank you so much.
I think we have a very there's a great affinity between musicians and stand-ups, especially with me. I absolutely massive respect for it. And as I say, I've been always trying to think about how would you do that, and then you just bomb with one joke on stage, and I go. And I look at my drummer, he goes, and I go, thanks be to fuck. Thanks be to fuck, I have that out. And I've done there's a gig called Daryl's House. Daryl Hall has live from Daryl's house. And we've done it a few times, and it's broadcast live from the gig. And you can't bomb. Everything has musically, you have to be bang on. The gig has to be great. And I've been lucky, I think anyhow, I hope, that they went well, but it's that's where I get my most respect for what you guys do, because it's not a fucking easy gig, and I love it because I feel there's a natural banter when I always say my dad, whatever sense of humor I got was from my dad, and if he was watching this now, as soon as it was over, he wouldn't come up to me and say, "Great job." He'd go, "Okay, here's where you fucked up. 11 minutes and 20 seconds into it. What the fuck was that? You got to back up." And I'll be going, Jesus Christ. Like he was always banging. And, after he passed away, I remember at his funeral, that was when I gave the little obituary or whatever. I said, as long as I'm alive, he'll never be dead, because he literally, he was probably would have won definitely the bronze for being a dad, but a gold medal for being a mate and being a great, sort of influence on it. So I think it gave me a love of comedy and a love of sense of humor and stuff like that. That's just, a lot of Irish people have. It's funny though. It's like the way, they say, oh, Welsh people, they all sing, and it's true until you find one that fucking can't. And you just put them up on the table at the pub. Go on, Josie, sing that one, your mother, you know that one, And the guy gets up and he's fucking atrocious. And everybody goes, oh, it's not true. All right, well, moving on. It's the same thing that, you meet an Irish non-drinker. It just, everybody goes, oh, seriously? Oh, fuck. Oh, okay. And you're like, leave him alone, for fuck's sake. He's trying to get his life back. But it's just the stereotyping follows us all, Right. So this was great. It was fun to do it. And Billy, I mean, I haven't seen Billy in so long. Brilliant part of this band's early day career. Was a great friend, was with us, was always a fucking funny bastard. And I'm delighted that part of this is that I reconnected with Billy too. So it's it's great.
Yeah. He's a great dude, and we work together really well. And so,
as I like to say, you say, "Will I be back again?" I say, "Whether you fucking like it or not."
Thank you so fucking much, dude. This was an absolute blast. Yep. Brilliant. Take care, man.
We'll see you again. Good luck.
Dystopia tonight.